Everybody. Happy Thursday. I just want to say, just to start off with, it was so crazy. We get a lot of rain here, and well, not this year, but the year before, we usually get quite a few thunderstorms like every day. Um, but I don't see a lot of rainbows. And this morning we had the tiniest, like calling it a sprinkle would even be generous, rain, and the most beautiful piece of a rainbow. It wasn't a full rainbow or anything, it was very short, but it was so fat. It had three purples in it. Oh, it was just amazing. And I think this is one of those things where, I saw it at the end of my run this morning, and how many vehicles I saw going past me. This is in my neighborhood, so we're not out on busy traffic or anything, but personally I don't care. You should not be holding your phone while you drive. I am 100% against this, but we see it all the time here. I swear to God, people are on their phones more than they are driving. And so I just want to, almost as like a nice reminder of just to really pay attention, to take those things in. Because I looked up, I seen this, like I said, the fattest rainbow I've ever seen. And I think, how can this not be an amazing day? And obviously, with positivity, gratitude, I think every day is a good day anyway, but it was just extra special. And I'm just like, this is going to be a great day. Like, big things are going to happen. There is my beautiful sign. Like, as the meditation say, it is done. And I also had to wonder, as I was halfway home, um, how many cars had driven past me that hadn't seen this, even though it's literally right there. But they had to look up. They had to be aware. They had to just get outside their tiny little bubble off of that device and just look up. What would it be? 2 inches up in their windshield, and notice this beautiful piece of rainbow. And I feel like this is actually something that we really do struggle with. Um, Side note, actually, my topic today is boundaries. So this is just like something on my mind this morning. So I'll get to boundaries. Um, but my boyfriend and I joke a lot, like, how can people this? How can people that? How can blah, 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 whatever. And I've been saying this for years because if something doesn't literally poke or ripple someone's little bubble, people don't care. They don't notice. It doesn't affect them. It's just they become oblivious. Like, I don't know if it's conscious oblivious or subconscious, but they just, if it doesn't personally affect them, like I said, ripple, poke that bubble of theirs, they don't notice or care. And I think, what a shame, because those millions of people like that, they didn't see that rainbow. And even if they did, they probably just like barely noticed it and, oh, what a rainbow, whatever, and didn't take anything out of it. It's just like, I guess, like a missed opportunity to just be grateful for something beautiful, to acknowledge how amazing life is. And like in that moment, it was just, I don't know if it's right to say, like, it just brought me so much happiness, because there's so many levels of how I appreciate this rainbow, for how beautiful nature can be. Like, the rainbow is just the sun and the light, and reflecting off water droplets, and all these things. And I think it's amazing that it gives us this beautiful thing to look at. And it's also, again, like, people like, well, how do you, it doesn't mean it's going to be a great day, but I choose to believe that. I looked up, I felt so happy, I felt grateful that Mother Nature shared this with me, that the rainbow was there during my run, so I was able to see it, because once I'm back in the house, there's like no windows in this house, so I don't see anything. um, there's just so many levels to be grateful for. And if you miss all that, I just think, for people that choose not, sounds weird, choose not to choose, or I should say, the people that choose not to see these things. That's the correct way. Because everything in life is a choice. Um, like your morning was so diminished compared to mine. And it's funny because I know some people have seen that happy person or seen that bubbly person or the super positive person, and they're like, oh my God, how are you so happy? Or how are you so happy all the time? Or why are you so positive all the time? Or like, oh, like, and they get irritated. And it's an irritation though, because it's almost like a, I don't want to say a jealousy, but it's like we all want to be happy. And because you don't have that current ability to rise to that level of happiness that you see, because misery loves company. So when you're in a sour mood, a negative mood, you do not like happy people. That's just kind of a fact, right? But how do those people, when you ask, like, how are those people happy all the time? It's because they choose to be. They choose to see the beauty. They choose to just make the story about something positive. Because um, if you guys haven't seen previous videos where I talk about perception, maybe I'll make another video about this. The very short version, without getting into it too much, is just our reality is literally how we perceive things. Glass half full versus glass half empty. Like, it's how we look at things, how we choose to interpret it, right? It's like another man's garbage is another man's treasure. Like, we have all these sayings out there, but I think we've never truly taken the time to actually think about, what does that truly mean? And what that really means is it's how we choose to see things. And a lot of people think, I can't choose to be happy. It's all these outside extenuating circumstances, la, 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 la. But that just isn't true. Because, and again, here's another good one. And I know everyone's heard this. You hear this person's side of the story, then you hear this person's side of the story, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. We've all heard this because each person thinks they're right based on their perception of the event that happened, that they're having the conflict over. This is the exact same thing, but it applies to everything in life. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to be like, oh, it's my perception, it's raining outside. No, like, I get it. It's literally raining. But I can choose to view that as a negative. I can choose to view that as a positive. I choose how I make that rain fit into my life. What story do I give it? Oh, it's raining. I wanted to go outside. My day is ruined. Or is it, oh, clearly I wasn't meant to play in the garden today. What other fun things can I do? Oh, maybe I'm supposed to relax more. Maybe life is telling me to chill. Maybe life is telling me, hey, you really need to wash that floor. Stay inside, get your floors washed. Like, whatever you choose to make it, right? It doesn't have to be a negative. But so many times it's like we're raised in that sort of environment, just to always, oh, everything happens to us, oh, right? Whereas when we come out of that negativity, when we decide that we're going to be more positive, we're going to decide to be happier, we're going to decide to make different stories and choose different meanings to what happened, then we can start to choose to see things happening for us, not to us, right? And that's a huge flip. Nothing in life has actually changed. It's still raining outside, the floor is still dirty, whatever's happening, like, the facts are still the facts. How are you going to interpret that? And one last example of this, it's like if you've ever been in an English class and you've discussed, oh, well, Shakespeare says this, or this book says this, or, this event happened in this book or poem or whatever. What do you think that means? You're going to get a variety of answers from all the people. Or if you've ever done like a book study or something, everybody interprets things differently. That is literally the story that we attach to the situation. That is our perception. And we do this with everything in life subconsciously. So we're not actively thinking like, oh, I'm choosing to perceive that red light as, or whatever. Like, we just go through life living, but it's being able to kind of retrain our minds to choose that positive, to find the positive. I'm going to make a positive meaning out of this. And then till that becomes second nature. And then that's just how we kind of go about our business again, right? I hope that all makes sense. Perception is one of those, it really is a bit of a mind twist if you've never really thought about it before, how we really choose to view things, how we choose to be positive or negative, how glass half empty, glass half full. And that relates, when you add up all the things in life, to us choosing to be happy or not. It's a bit of a twist. Yeah, anyway, like I said, I think I'll do a separate video on that, because it can get quite complex. It's like, are we in the matrix or what? So back to my original thing I wanted to do this on, though, is boundaries. And I did already make an actual video that I uploaded. So if you guys want to get, maybe I had a few tidbits when I made that video that I forget to mention today or something, I do have another video you can watch as well. But boundaries. So boundaries are basically the rules, the unwritten rules we give to our lives. And these are things, they come from our morals, our values, things that are important to us. And it's basically the way that we say what is acceptable and not acceptable in our lives. And the first thing, most people, when you think boundaries, you think of a relationship, you think of a person. I need to set boundaries on that person, something like that. And that is, if we're thinking in that regard, what is acceptable? Is it acceptable for that person to treat you this way? If it's no, then you put up that boundary and then you tell them, like, right? These are what healthy boundaries are. Now, when I talk about boundaries, of course, I am always referring to healthy boundaries that help create a positive, healthy environment for you mentally and physically. I know I've heard and seen events where people are misconstruing this. Especially, a little while ago, there was this string of videos. I saw a ton of videos on people using the word boundary, but that's not what was going on. It was avoidance and like cocooning. They were talking about, oh, I need boundaries for that person. I need boundaries for that person. I need all these boundaries to keep me safe. Well, boundaries are to identify what's acceptable and not acceptable in your life. They're not to avoid and cocoon. And I hope you guys are seeing the difference. It's not okay for someone to bully you, make you do extra work, crap on you, treat you poorly, all these things. But that's not the same as, oh my God, I have all this anxiety. I don't like working. I'm not going to go to work. I'm just going to make a boundary that I don't do work. Like, that's not a healthy boundary. I don't think that's a boundary at all. That is something else. I don't really want to get into what that is. But these are, again, like, avoiding situations is not healthy. We always need to deal with things. A good example I had, so one of my clients, she was in a situation, so she's with this person, and this person easily angers her. They're long time in their life previously. There's lots of like triggers and stuff, and they easily get in arguments. So when we were discussing this, she had said, yes, I just tend to remove myself. I go to another room and then we don't have to argue. And okay, so that is not a boundary. That is avoiding, yes. But if you do this just for a moment, just to like kind of stop the argument, let emotions cool down so we can, choose to respond instead of reacting. And you know what? I'm just going to quickly find, because I did a video on responding versus reacting a little while ago. And that one, guys, that one is so important. Let me just find this for a minute. I know I did this. It looks like episode 3 in March, so quite a while ago. Very important, guys. If you don't know what this is, go back, watch that video. Very, very important. It's going to save you a ton of hassle, a ton of arguments, a ton of possible pain. So she removes herself from the situation, let the emotions cool down. But then I asked her, okay, but that original argument, the reason you're getting so heated is still there because you walked away. You didn't solve anything. You didn't come to some sort of consensus. You are literally avoiding. Avoiding is not a boundary. It is an escape. It's a runaway. It's not even a coping mechanism. It's just turtling. This is never the answer. I will say again, for her to allow emotions to cool, you separate. So I guess you'll call it a mini avoidance, but not I'm just going to avoid this person forever and never deal with anything, right? Avoidance is dealing, not dealing with anything. In my world, you always want to solve the problem. You can't just be like, there's a problem. Oh my God, it's scary. Turtle, turtle, avoid. The problem is still there. That is not acceptable to run away and just, I don't know, hope the problem resolves itself. That's, we are not toddlers. I know I always talk about our toddler brain, but that's why we are getting control of the toddler brain and we're retraining because we're adults. Kids go run away and hide. We are adults. We solve problems. That's how we get over stress and anxiety. That's how we get over overwhelmed. That's how we have a healthy, productive, wonderful, happy life, is we solve the problems. So avoiding does nothing. Avoiding literally does nothing but make you feel better in that moment. So I had asked her, okay, so this problem, this argument, this conversation, it's unresolved. So potentially when you go back, is this going to be an argument again? And she's like, well, yeah, because we literally just walked away. I'm okay. So nothing's resolved. So in this situation, if you don't want to have the argument again, then potentially you just literally never have to see this person ever again in your life. So the boundary you set up is going to be, okay, what caused that argument? If it's something like, for a lot of people, politics. You will never agree on politics. I have come to learn a lot of people are incapable of discussing. It's more just like this yell fest. I'm right. Let me talk over you. You literally have to agree to disagree and call it a day. So like my brother and I, we are very much on opposite sides of the fence. We are very different politically. And so my boundary is we don't talk about politics, or we take that toe in the water. But the minute we start getting heated at all, we change the subject. No hard feelings, agree to disagree. What else do we talk about? So the boundary is no politics, or if we're willing to cross that line, as soon as emotions go up, it's done. We're out. We tap out, we change it. Nobody tries to bring it up again. That's a healthy boundary where it's like we just need to draw the line of something that's unproductive that we'll never be able to agree on. And then, okay, how do we still have a friendship? How do we still have discussions? How do we still be good with us, talking, and still have a healthy relationship that way? We take the thing out that is causing the problem. And then there's like a million things in life we can talk about. We can leave politics out of it, right? Or maybe the boundary for you might be in any sort of discussion, like, okay, boundary is when voices start being raised, we need to tap it back. We need to either bring it back down, or we need to change the subject. Maybe we can circle back. Maybe we need the reminder, hey, we're discussing. It's okay that we don't disagree, or it's okay that we don't agree. We're adults. We can carry on, right? So having those boundaries of what is acceptable and not acceptable. And I know some people are thinking, if you want to try and be sly, you'd be like, oh, well, not talking about politics is avoiding. But you're not avoiding the person. I haven't run away from a problem. I have just logically figured out that he's never going to change his mind, no matter how much we discuss or debate. That is just his view stance. And maybe we circle back again at some other point, but that is how he feels, and that is fine. And I have my beliefs that I know are going to be very hard to change, and that is fine. So trying to pretend there's no problem to solve. We are each happy in our camps. We each have our information and our supporting arguments, and that is what we believe, and that is fine. So there's no problem to solve. So we're not actually avoiding. right? Because if you're avoiding, if you're running away and turtling, that is from a problem. And of course, like an argument is a problem that's been unresolved. I hope you're seeing the distinction. It's running away from things that can be solved is avoiding. But if there's just something that is completely unable to be solved in conversation, then you can have that as an off limit subject. For example, um, my one friend, this was a long time ago, she was being the mistress with a guy, and we were friends. And I have a very, very, very strict rules, boundaries about cheating, extremely unacceptable. This is just my stance point. I have reasons in my past for it, and I'm okay with that boundary. It's not a problem for me. I really like it. It's good. Where I just don't believe in it. If you willingly are cheating, if you're the mistress to the other person, I do not condone it whatsoever. Now, that doesn't make you a bad person. I just think that's a very bad choice. It's going to land everyone in pain. It's going to just implode horribly. I've never heard of a situation like that ending well. Very bad idea. Now, because I don't equate your decision in that matter to who you are as a person, I separate that. So I had to tell her, I very much disagree with what you're doing. I think it's absolutely terrible. But if we're going to be friends and we're going to continue to hang out and talk, that's off limits, because I have nothing good to say. And no matter what you say about that situation, I'm going to circle back to you are choosing to do this, period. That is just my opinion, right? So I know that nothing she can possibly say about that situation, I'm not going to have anything good to say. So we're not going to talk about it. So we would talk about other things. We carried on our friendship. We could still hang out. I had to set up that boundary of this topic is no go, because it's a very deep topic for me, and we are never going to agree, ever. Right? And this is where, and I know in America, there's a lot of divide. Canada's actually the same. We're pretty divided on bloody everything. But this is where, like, there's no need to have one other person. You don't need to friendship off. You just need to set up a healthy boundary. Okay, what are we never going to agree on? All right, then we need to agree not to talk about it, because we cannot come to a consensus. So it's just going to be off limits, right? So that is one healthy boundary that you can still maintain good relationships with people and keep hot topics off limits, right? But boundaries, honestly, boundaries can come up in every part of life. Time, personal boundaries, and personal boundaries are like things like the self-care, exercise, eating. You're going to have work boundaries. You're going to have social boundaries. Like, literally, you can have boundaries for pretty much everything. So how do you know you need a boundary? That is kind of for people, let's go back to people for a minute. When you're having people you avoid, people you're trying to run away from, people you get horrible feelings around, like when you're not feeling good about yourself, not feeling good in the situation, then there's probably something that needs to be solved, probably a boundary that can be put up to make that situation better, right? Time boundaries, especially if you're maybe you always procrastinate, you're late a lot, you spend too much time on social media, maybe you need to set alarms, actually set up boundaries to keep yourself in check. Myself, for example, I have food boundaries. I am a very fat kid at heart. I love sweets. I love pretty much everything. I love food. Food is amazing. I would eat all the things. So even for like cookies or little treats, because I also love baking, so I do have to mind myself. How many cookies or treats, I'll just say cookies. How many cookies can I have in a day? How many days a week do I get cookies? How much extra exercise do I need to do to compensate for the cookies if I choose to have the cookies? These are all boundaries I put in place so that I don't get out of check. Because let me tell you, if I just let myself eat whatever, do whatever, I would be very unhealthy. I am now in my 40s. I might have a heart attack soon. Like, I really do love all the foods, and especially anything sweet. So boundaries, again, we can place those on ourselves to give ourselves limits. And then the other thing is, well, how do we enforce boundaries? Now, for enforcing boundaries, I'll switch over and think about either a workplace, or maybe you have that neighbor or like another mom in the PTA, and you wish you could say no to something, but you keep saying yes. You keep getting dragged into things, and you just always keep saying yes, and you're just like, dang it, I really meant to say no that time. You're politely, I say, you're a bit of that doormat. You don't really stand up for yourself. Maybe it's a coworker that is always getting you to help them and do half of their work, even though you have your own pile to do, whatever that might be. There's a situation you really don't like, and you really wish it were different. You just don't know how to get there. So obviously this needs a boundary. So in situations like this, you're going to figure out, okay, um, obviously I'm not happy. Something needs to change. Okay, we're going to put a boundary in place. So again, pen to paper, I always say, write everything down. So you're going to write down that whole situation, play it out like you're writing a book, you're describing it for someone else, everything that happens. And then you're going to kind of like that disassociate, where you take that step back and you're going to read it. And me, I'm a very visual person. I honestly assumed everyone visualize everything when they read things. They have the story, the scene that they're seeing in their head. They're playing the movie out. Not everyone does that, but try your best to kind of really be in that moment, be in that situation. If you have to actually replay the memory of it to help you out, read again. We're reading off that horrible situation you want to change, whatever it might be. What is your ideal response? How would you like to respond? And now don't say you don't know, because you know it needs to change. So you do know, you're just not being comfortable vocalizing it. But deep down, you know your ideal response. Now, the reason we want to write it down and we want to come up with the response is because sometimes, let's say it's a horrible person, a coworker, maybe you're kind of being bullied, whatever it might be. Your initial response is, I'm going to punch him in the face. That's reacting. That is not responding. That's not a good response. We don't actually want to do that. That's going to get us in a whole lot of trouble, even though emotionally you feel like, I would love to punch this guy in the face. So this is why we like to pre-plan and write down, how are we going to respond. So, you know, Karen, hey, I need you to bake a dozen cookies for whatever tomorrow. No, I'm too busy. I don't have time. I'm really sorry. I'll buy some cookies. I'll give someone else money for the ingredients if they have time to bake it. I cannot bake the cookies. I'm very sorry. Walk away. You want to write that down and play it out, right? And does that feel good? Is that the response you want? Are you happy with that? Coworker, hey, I need you to come help me on this. You know what, Bob? I don't have time. I'm swamped today. I'm really sorry. I understand you need help. I just can't give it to you right now. I'm just way too busy. Write it down. Does that feel good? Um, are you feeling empowered by that response? And then once you kind of get this response, like, okay, yes, this is how I would love to respond. This is like my ideal world of dream me responding and getting out of these situations. Okay, you're happy with the response. Now, the catch is, I want you to write below that how this improves your life, how having this boundary in place is going to make your life better. Now, this could be literally, maybe you have a ton of like, I won't be bullied anymore. It's going to make my workplace environment so much better. I can actually just do my work. Whatever those positives are, I feel more empowered. I'm finally going to take control of my situation. Or if it's just plain and simply, I'm going to have less stress not having to do Bob's stupid work. Now, that sounds a little negative. So if that's your only response, I want you to, again, empower yourself with, I'm going to have less stress because I'm only going to have to do my work and not do some of Bob's, right? See the difference? So make sure it's in that positive mind frame that makes you feel good and you're like, okay, yes, this is how I want it to be. And this is especially for situations where you're not great at saying no, you're that bit of a doormat, people can talk you into anything super fast and you hate it. What you're going to have to do is it's like practicing for a play. You've written out your script. Now you're going to run through it and you're going to reread this every single day and you're going to memorize those lines. Because if you're the person who's not very good at saying no, then when that time comes, even though you wrote out your script, if you don't go over it, if you don't memorize it, if you don't play that scene out in your mind over and over and over again, when that time comes and Karen comes up to you and is like, hey, I need you to bake the cookies, you're going to be like, I can see it. Like, no. And then she's like, well, why not? I really need you to do that, blah, 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 blah. And obviously she's very good at what she does. That's why she's gotten you to bake all these cookies or whatever it is in the first place. And then you back down, you haven't practiced, you chicken out, whatever it is, you weren't prepared, right? Same thing with Office Bob or whatever. You go in there and maybe in the moment, all of a sudden you don't even get the no out, you lost your courage, he's just staring at you, expecting, because you always do it, and you go back to your office. We've seen this in movies and TV shows and stuff, right? This is why we have to like almost pretend like it's a play. We memorize our lines. We've got them memorized, and it's almost like, because it's memorized and we've kind of lived that scene out in our mind over and over again, like rehearsing for the play. Then when we're on stage and the time comes and Office Bob is in our face, you can say almost autopilot, no, I have too much work to do. I'm swamped. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And it's almost just going to come out of your mouth. And I want you to feel empowered in that moment. Don't be like shocked to be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Just be like, yes, I actually said that, and hold your ground, right? So that's what I know some people, again, this is why you need to write it out and you need to reread it, because you're going to get more and more empowered every time you read it. Every time, you really play it out, you're going to have more and more conviction, more and more willpower and drive to get it and see it done. Okay. I hope that helps, guys. This one is really important. Again, if you're not used to saying no, it is very, very difficult. So don't think, if you're that person who's never said no to Office Bob, you're going to never rehearse this and you're just going to automatically say. If you do, that's amazing. That's awesome. Congratulate yourself. But from my experience with other people and their stories, it just doesn't seem to happen that way. That's why it's so important to reread and really commit that and really commit to it, right? That's the other thing. You are committing to holding that boundary. You put it there for a reason. And that's why we also have, how is my life better with this boundary in place? That's the reason you're doing this, because you want to achieve that bit of your life back, right? That's the goal. And we always need that goal to drive us, to motivate us to actually do that thing, right? So I'll just speak now generically about boundaries. If you're not sure if you need boundaries in certain areas, just kind of sit back. Again, I will say better is write it down, your ideal day of what you want your life to look like. But really think about that and think about different areas like, oh, I'm not quite happy with this. How can I improve this? Is this an actual boundary? Is this just maybe a habit change I need to make? And you write down how your life looks better. If it is a boundary, write out that situation, write out the response you want, write out why your life is better with that boundary in place, and then commit to holding that boundary. Now, I will say, if you're a person, you've come up with like 5 boundaries you want to put in, don't try putting them in all at one time. It is too much. It's like overhauling your food habits. It's too much too quickly. You just will end up enforcing none of them. Pick 1, maybe 2, but 1 is best. When you are solid, Office Bob comes up and you pretty much just shake your head and he walks away. Boom, boundary is awesome. You can move on to the next. But you really want to make sure these are in place before you stop really working on enforcing them, because it's like building a wall. If it's half built and you think it's good enough, all of a sudden you come back a couple days later and it's crumbling and it's falling over because you haven't you didn't complete it. The supports are not in place. You had the wall kind of up, but you didn't finish it. You didn't cement it in. You didn't support it properly. You didn't get those finishing touches. It's going to crumble eventually, right? So it's really important to make sure that it's second nature and it's not an issue anymore before you move on. It just reminds me, I was in a Q&A yesterday, and the one lady, she was talking about her mantras, and she did them for like a week or something. It was a short period of time, and then she was like, okay, I got this, and she just stopped doing them and moved on. And then within a couple days, it fell apart, and she didn't have it. It was amazing that mantras were working so well for her, but she thought too quickly, I have this, I don't have to work at it, it's just there. But she didn't create those supports. She didn't make sure it was second nature. Habits take, and I'm going to say the habit of enforcing a boundary, because most things in our lives are habit, 3 weeks on average for people. So I'd say a solid month for sure. I know when I did, just speaking of mantras, when I instilled a few Tony Robbins mantras from doing his Date with Destiny in December, it took me about 2 months. 2 months till I actually noticed the effects of it and was like, oh, yeah, I just did that. Oh, that's awesome. So I don't want you to think this is just like you stand firm with Office Bob twice and it's second nature. Really give it a go, commit to it. This is that, you're spending that little extra time now to have the complete freedom later, right? Because once it's second nature, it's not going anywhere. It's there for life. You've cemented the posts in, the rocks, you put all the structure, it's cemented, it's plastered. It is like the hurricane, it's not knocking this thing over, right? So really make sure when you commit to it that you're going to follow through and keep it for life. Because again, it's that short-term little bit extra, but for long-term freedom of not even thinking about it. That's the beauty. That's the amazing part, right? So don't give up. Don't think 3 days later, oh, it's not working. You will get there. You just need to commit and do it. Okay. I hope that all makes sense, guys. I will say I'm so bad at saying this, so I'm trying to remember every single time. So get used to it. The subscribe, hit the little thumbs up. It actually really helps. If this helps you, please maybe send it to a friend or send them here, whatever, copy the link. If someone can benefit from this, please share this video with them and subscribe, thumbs up, all the good things, and please comment. If you have any comments, I love comments. I love responding. I love feedback. Even if it's negative, I will take it because let's have a discussion. Maybe if you need help, comment on that. I am literally a coach. I do this for a living. I am here to help. So please comment. I know if you're YouTube, not everyone's on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. I'm on LinkedIn. You know what, guys? I'm actually going to put a link to one of my pages in the description. I think I've said this before, and I think I keep forgetting to do that. So I'm going to remember this time. I will. And feel free to message me or book a call. If you happen to watch this today, by chance, it is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. I have a workshop this afternoon. I'll drop the link in the comments for that to register. I am going to be talking about boundaries, and then there'll be Q&A. So if you need help with this, it is 100% free, no charge at all. There will be replays. So all you have to do is register for it, and you can get the replays, and you'll still be able to Q&A me after, because don't tell them this, but I'm going to host a follow-up session just for Q&A, because some of these things you really got to make sure you implement them, and they can be tricky if you've never done anything like it before. So, all right, you know what? I'm going to write this down right now. Get links in YouTube video, because if you don't write it down, you're pretty liable to forget about it, which I've done a couple times. And I tell all you guys to write stuff down all the time. So I best take my own advice. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will also say that workshop, I'm going to repeat it. So the only thing that's going to change, I'll keep the link in the description. The only thing that's going to change is the dates. But yeah, if you're interested in taking this workshop and getting a little extra help, perfectly, it is absolutely free, no charge, nothing to lose when you subscribe to or you register for that workshop. I do not add your email to my email list. That is a separate list. Your email is for this masterclass only. I keep calling it a workshop. It is my masterclass. Same thing, doesn't matter. So do not be afraid if you register, even just to get the replays. I'm not putting you on my email list. You're not going to get all the other emails I sent. It is just for this. I keep everything separate. I do not take advantage of anyone's kindness to register for anything of mine. So just know that. And that is why every time I have anything new, you will always have to re-register, because your email goes away when that masterclass is over. I do not re-sign you. I do not resend you. It is one and done. So that is why. All right, guys, that's enough. I have yabbered a ton today. It's because I told my boyfriend it's going to be like 20 minutes, so now I'm 40. Isn't that funny? All right, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful